The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.
Hello and welcome to another Soccer to the Max. And I know we haven't had a show in a little bit between falling asleep on late nights and just other things. But hey, we have a lot to talk about on this one. The U.S. men's national team has now been called, and they are ready for their two games that they have to play on Friday against Panama and then on Tuesday against Trinidad and Tobago. A win and a draw is enough to get them through. Let's hope they just get 2 wins and not even put us in any kind of danger. And they get into that third place spot to automatically qualify for the World Cup. If not, it might be playoff time or worse. So lots of nail binding going to be going on pretty soon. But here with us, Miss Rachael McKriger.
Long time no see, y'all, and boy, do I have a length of opinion for you on the U.S. men's national team roster.
Always wonderful to hear Rachel's opinions because they're going to have everybody talking afterwards. And, of course, can't do this show without the main man, Mr. Erik Watkins.
Bruce, Ben, Don, a pox on all of you.
What's the owner for the Cosmos name?
Something Italian. Rocco, I believe?
Yes, Rocco. Got to put his name in there now because he can't just shut up. But it's okay. We'll get into that later. We're also going to finally be able to talk about the... Now, I'm going to preface this by saying that there are other podcasts out there, like the Yanks are coming, like Feuerstein's Fire, World Soccer Talk's gotten into a little bit of this, that those guys that are on there, I'm going to say that they have given us a lot of information to talk about, you know, between Kartik Krishnaiyer and various other guys, to be able to elaborate on this whole thing with the NASL and their antitrust lawsuit with going against USSF. So, and there's implications that could go against all soccer if USSF loses their antitrust ability here. So, lots for Erik and I to get into later. But let's start. U.S. men's national team. We have the players. It's 26 players being named here, and they are the ones that are going to fight for the lives of the U.S. getting into the World Cup later in 2018. Goalkeepers are Brad Guzan, Tim Howard, Nick Raimondo. No surprise there. Those are kind of the guys that have been called. Nick Raimondo had been out for a while, but he has been making good saves for All Salt Lake, so that's kind of understandable. And here we go with I wonder what we're thinking here. DeMarcus Beasley, Matt Beasler, Jeff Cameron, Omar Gonzalez, Michael Orozco Fiscal, or I guess he's not Fiscal anymore, Tim Ream, Jorge Villafana, DeAndre Yedlin, and Graham Susi. Midfielders, Kellen Acosta, Juan Agudelo, Paul Ariola, Alejandro Bedoya, Michael Bradley, Benny Feilhaber. First time we have heard his name in a long, long time. Dax McCarty, Darlington Nagby, Christian Pulisic. Jesse Zardes just got injured apparently, so he is not going to be coming along. Josie Altador, Clint Dempsey, Chris Wondolowski, and Bobby Wood. Rachael, you have the floor. What do you think of this squad?
I have 3 players I want to point out and 3 points. Number 1, Michael Orozco has not played for his club since August 5th. Why is he getting a call-in? Another player I want to mention, Chris Wondolowski. Yes, he's been a goal-scoring machine for San Jose, but is he really a legitimate person that they're going to bring to the World Cup next year? Probably not, especially with Jordan Morris somewhere in the mix, even though he's injured. I get Morris. I don't think Wondolowski should have got a call-up. I think that spot should have went easily to Dom Dwyer. I don't know. And the third player I want to talk about is Juan Agudelo. Since the Gold Cup, he has not scored for the New England Revolution except for one time. These three players all got called up. Matt Miazga didn't get called up. Danny Williams still hasn't been called up. And Justin Morrow hasn't been called up. And Fabian Johnson. Bruce Arena left Fabian Johnson at home. I read in a story a while ago on this German magazine site called Bild. I mean, I don't know if that's an acronym for something. It's BILD.
Nope, that's name of the paper. One of the more prominent ones in Germany.
Gotcha. In my story that I wrote for W2M, which Sean, I know we'll get to sometime later, I had, put the correlation in there with Bild that Johnson had a conversation with Bruce Arena, and basically the final report was that Fabian was going to be used for the important games and left back in Germany for like friendlies and stuff like that. Well, a World Cup qualifier and one that you need to win to go to Russia kind of sounds like an important game. He can't even use an excuse that he's not healthy because he's been starting. I think he started the last two matches for Borussia Mönchengladbach. He hasn't scored goals for them yet this season. But it's also the beginning of the season, and it's also Fabian Johnson. He's the most versatile player on the U.S. men's national team right now in the pool of players. And it just amazes me. I don't know. Fabian must have gotten on some sort of beef with him or something, but Sean, as you mentioned, the Yanks Are Coming podcast and website had tweeted out a quote from him, and then they sent me the full quote. This is from Fabian Johnson himself. He said, quote, "I am shocked and devastated and disappointed to not be part of the U.S. team this week. Obviously, we've put the work in for 2 years, and I wanted to do everything in my power to help finish it. I feel I am playing well now after an injury and feel I could contribute, but I certainly believe the team will play well and find the level it needs to finish strong and qualify now without a playoff." End quote. I mean, it's straight up betrayal from Bruce Arena there.
I think personally we've seen that Bruce obviously kind of has a look. We can all say that Fabian Johnson did not have the greatest of games. The last one he played in, I think that's fair to say. He had less time with his club then than he does now, but still, it's only 118 minutes over the span of the 2 times that the U.S. has now had international dates. That's not a lot of minutes, but considering you're bringing in Michael Orozco, who hasn't played in almost 2 months now, really weird that you're not even bringing Fabian in, even if you don't use him, just to bring him in. There's nothing that says you have to. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Chris Wondolowski still doesn't play. And we saw that he got called last time and he didn't play. So,
and I mean, if you're going to have Jossie Zardes, who is injured, listed as a midfielder, and he pulls out, why are you not putting Fabian there? It literally makes, Fabian Johnson must have done something to piss off Bruce Arena, because this is just out of control.
Well, I will say that I think it's rather obvious that he doesn't sit there. I don't know that he spends that much time watching tape of the European guys. And I think between the time that he's played and then also the last time Bruce saw him, he's probably going, I didn't really like what I saw. And I don't think that we necessarily need him to win these 2 games. I mean, I know this is you're a little bit partial here, but it's from an objective standpoint, I can totally understand. Look, Fabian Johnson's a big miss, but let's be honest, it's been a little bit of a time since he's done something for the U.S. men's national team.
And I agree with that. But the thing is what if, God forbid, what if Graham Zusi goes down with injury? What if Jorge Villafaña goes down with injury? That's the versatility I'm talking about. He doesn't just play in the midfield. You could easily put him in the back, because I know Bruce loves him some DeMarcus Beasley, but if I had Fabian Johnson and DeMarcus Beasley both standing in front of me as a practical coach, if Villafaña or Zusi would get injured, because I guarantee you those will be the two starting backs, one of them gets injured, you put Fabian Johnson. Like, he doesn't have to be a midfielder.
I will say that you do have Yedlin this time, which we haven't had him in a long time. So I wouldn't be surprised if Yedlin starts this time. But I agree with you that whether it's Yedlin and Villafaña starting or it's Beasley and Zusi, one of these guys can get hurt, and then you don't have a replacement because, let's be honest, if you wind up feeling like you have to start DeMarcus Beasley in Trinidad or something, he goes down, which can very much happen. You don't have somebody to bring in. If you decided, okay, I'm not going to put Villafaña on the bench that game, you could have put Fabian Johnson on the bench, because if you don't have a spot for him, let's say Beasley plays well, but Nagby doesn't play well, or who's Bedoya or whoever he decides to put on the right doesn't play well, he could put Fabian Johnson there. I agree with you. I think it's. I agree with you that you could have brought him, especially after Justice Artis pulls out. But I have to think that there's something here that goes back to the whole. I don't know that Bruce was too big on that announcement coming out about Fabian Johnson sort of wavering on his commitment. I know it's about being with his children and all that stuff, and there was nothing wrong with that as a father.
When did that happen?
Remember, we talked about this. Him saying that he wanted to be, he was going to be in the important games, but not playing all of them because he wanted to spend more time with his child.
Nagby said the same thing too to Jurgen Klinsmann. He literally
Klinsmann, Bruce Arena, two different people. And I'm just saying, I think Bruce has thrown around that word of commitment or some other word. And I wonder if that's a shot at Johnson sometimes.
Yeah, and I mean, there was that incident too with Jurgen Klinsmann and Fabian Johnson, I think in 2015, when he sent him back after that one, I think it was the Mexico match. So yeah, that's been tossed around, but I mean, you heard it in that quote. It doesn't sound like there's any wavering commitment there. I mean, it's just one giant crap show.
I mean, Erik, what do you think about this roster here?
To say that we're potentially screwed, those are the first words out of my mouth. I get with the level of opponents and everything going on and the thinking that we're safe. No, I don't get that feeling going into these last two matches. Even with the Fabian Johnson controversy aside, no, I don't think Bruce Arena really wanted this to get out, because with the pragmatism, with the long unbeaten streak from when he first came back to the men's national team, this focuses on a narrative of the kind of players that Bruce Arena wants, the kind of players that he wants to try to build a team around that could right the ship. So far, to that extent, you could say it could have worked because of him or in spite of him. But now I think he's testing those same waters a little bit too much. I hope it does not come back to bite us, but if it does, and we wind up needing to travel to a playoff or even sitting home next summer, I'm not going to be terribly surprised.
And speaking of testing the waters and basically testing the waters is the same thing as saying experimenting. And a while ago, Bruce Arena actually said in an interview, we'll be only using only guys who have been on the qualifying journey, saying, quote, we don't have the luxury of doing that. This is not experimental time. We pretty much have to go with who we have. Yet he makes these big changes. It's just mind-boggling.
And let's face it, a large favor of these big changes, it's either coming in with some long-time and older familiar names and a lot of MLS guys. I mean to bring up this narrative because, let's face facts, now it's getting more blatant. It is.
Yeah. Hold on. We've seen Bruce sort of have his... I mean, every coach has his favorites, right? And Bruce having the background that he does of MLS, and he's never coached abroad, so he's partial to these players. And other than the Costa Rica game, where I don't know if it's so much on the players as much it was on Bruce as to how he put the team out, and then obviously the mistakes by those certain players, which at that point, you know, that's on individual mistakes. I don't know that you can put that on the whole team. But these players are proven to win for the most part. So I don't think I can blame Bruce in that way. And right now, what you're trying to do is get through qualifying, get through teams that you've beaten before. You're not trying to win the World Cup right now. When you get to, you know, later on where you're now playing friendlies, trying to figure out who's going to be in your World Cup team, barring injuries, I think we can talk about that because that's two different teams, right? And, you know, let's be fair. There's times where the U.S. has coasted, like in 2006, through qualifying, and they end up doing absolutely shitty in the World Cup. And then they fight like they're doing this time, and they do well. So, looking at these two games, looking at the two opponents that you had to face, you know who Panama is. You know what kind of guy, you know what kind of character they have, what they're going to try to do. You know what the formula is now for all these teams in Central America. They're going to try to kick at Crystal Pulisic, and they're going to try to take you out of the game and then hit you on the counter or whatnot. You're in Orlando. You should win that game, regardless of whatever it is. You have to win that game. Because even though Trinidad and Tobago are out, you don't want to go down there needing to beat them. You just don't want to go down there needing to beat them.
You took the words right out of my mouth. I want the U.S. to go out in, if not slaughter, at least settle things with Panama. Because, and I will bring this up again, I don't want to give TNT at least an inkling of a freckle of an idea that they can get any sort of revenge for 1989. If we do, they're going to play like it, and what'll that do to us?
Yeah, because you have to think that, you know, if you get down to that last game, everybody has it out for the United States. They're going to play hard. You know, and let's not forget, you know, Trinidad has some really good players. We're not talking about scrubs on the, you know, other than Kevin, you know, they have some international talent aside from just, you know, people know Kevin Molino from, you know, MLS, but they have some impressive international talent playing there. They just for some reason or another, couldn't ever get them together all in at one point or another. They always had somebody be injured, and then a team would go down there and beat them. And it's unfortunate for them, but this is how the hex works. You have to play it over, 2 years, and so many things can happen. But I feel like regardless of who's not here, who's here, the end goal is that you're winning these games, you're getting the results that you need, you get into the damn World Cup, and you stop making everybody freak out here. And
then you probably lose the damn World Cup.
Well, let's be honest. It all depends on that draw in December. We can say what we want to say right now, but if the U.S. getting a the absolute crap draw, or in a group of death,
like we did in 2014.
Yeah, but they managed to get out of it. So this is a difficult thing. I think with the players you have, the one important thing for me is I really hope that you start figuring out that you need to play Crystal Bluset centrally and stop putting him over there on the right. You're not Borussia Dortmund. You don't have Aubameyang and everybody else that's around him there that allows him to, and he comes in as a sub in the Champions League. So it's like they have a surplus of players to where he doesn't even have to play every game. This is your number one guy. He's got a feature on 60 Minutes now where he's already being crowned the next, big guy in soccer. There's so much pressure on him. Put him in a spot where he is going to be able to be successful. Don't put him over there where he can easily get kicked at and taken out of a game.
Yeah, fantastic timing on that new special, by the way. I was even discussing it before we came on the air, and I'm like, oh boy.
I mentioned it too. That's kind of, how the news works, though. They want to be timely. So hopefully we'll get to be singing praises and not, of course, I'm sure someone will blame that as you put more pressure on him. It's 60 Minutes fault or something.
Well, hey, the first match is on Payday Friday, so I'm probably going to be screaming at my television drunk anyways, so whatever happens, happens.
I'm still trying to figure out if that game's actually going to start at 7 or if it's a pregame for an hour and then the game starts at 8.
Either way, sippy.
Yeah, U.S. Soccer says 7. It's on ESPN2 and Univision. And then Trinidad and Tobago is on BN Sports and Universo. So, yeah, and that one's at 8 o'clock. So good times for these. We don't have no 5:30 something in the afternoon. But, yeah, and then on Friday as well, I forgot, the under-17s start their journey as well against India. So get ready for that.
Yeah, but considering as how that's at what, 4 in the morning?
No, it's at 10:30 in the morning each game.
Huh. So instead of being asleep, it'll be on while I'm at work. Fantastic.
Yeah. Well, one of them's at 7:30, the other two are 10:30. But all right. I don't know. Is anything else you guys want to bring up about how you see the team playing or
Free Fabian. I'm about to start a hashtag on Twitter called Free Fabian.
Just don't make me yell at my TV too much, because when I get angry, I'm known to throw things.
I just have to see DeAndre Yedlin and he plays well. Because I really don't want to see Graham Susi again. At right back. Just
no,
too many problems.
Yeah, we get it, and I get it, but it's like top 11. You know how hard it is to earn 50 training points to get a player to play and work at a new position? It's tough.
I imagine so. I can't speak from experience, but
Yes, because somebody hasn't signed up yet, Sean.
I'm
You
still
know how many
debating on whether I'm going to buy FIFA or not, so I might get my opportunity there. But
Top 11 is cheaper, just saying.
that is true. Very true there. Well, Bruce, it's in your hands, man. If you don't get the points, you're definitely not going to have a job after Tuesday. I don't know that he cares too much, but we'll see. I guess then we'll have to have the talk about who should be the coach then. Seeing a lot of people naming several young MLS coaches, but we'll see how that goes. Let's move on to NWSL, who have now officially hit the play. They're going to hit the playoffs next week. They've played all the games for the year.
All 120. Whew.
Awesome to hear. And the final four are North Carolina Courage winning the Shield, Portland are winning the Shield on 49 points, Portland in second, 47. Orlando squeaks by Chicago and gets third, and it's the Chicago Red Stars on 39 points in fourth. So, what do you think, Rachel? You've been watching this more closely than we have. How do you feel about the Final Four and just the season in general, the first year of A&E and Lifetime, all that stuff for the league?
Well, I think A&E and Lifetime was a great stepping stone, and I really think it's going to help the league propel. The last matches, the playoff matches, the championship, they're all going to be on Lifetime, which I think is great. I think when it comes to the playoffs, though, you have four really, really good teams, but I think the team that I see winning is North Carolina. I don't think they've been getting the respect that they deserve. I always see the power rankings and stuff, and I mean, you can never trust those, but Portland's always at the top, and I get that they have the flashy players and stuff, but North Carolina has been so consistently good. Goalkeeper Caitlin Rowland has been their rock. McCall Zerboni is just impressive every week. Ashley Hatch proving why she deserves to be the NWSL Rookie of the Year. They're a powerful team. They've got a nice mixture of veteran and young, and they look good. They're going to be tough to beat. They're going to go up against Chicago first. I don't think Chicago quite has it yet to beat them, especially with Alyssa Nair in goal. I think the only reason they could beat them is because of Julie Ertz. But Portland and Orlando, that's going to be a tough one. I would love to see Orlando win that match, but I don't know if they can, just because of goalkeepers. Adriana Franch has been incredible this year for the Thorns. But I'm thinking we're going to see a North Carolina-Portland match, and Portland beat North Carolina this year, but I think North Carolina down in Orlando City Stadium could claim the win.
What do you think, Erik? I'm gonna give a tip to Orlando, who are, Alex Morgan's on fire right now. You've got the Marta that's that talisman that, all you need is that one moment and she can make it happen. I know you've got Portland has been the more consistent team throughout the season and everything, but hey, this is why sometimes it doesn't matter about that. It's about who's coming in on the best form, and I feel like Orlando could be primed for the upset. Yeah, it's in Providence Park, but Orlando for the upset for me. I think North Carolina beats Chicago, and then North Carolina winds up winning and defending their championship again.
I'm with you to a certain extent. Orlando has been on the best form, and I think they can go out west and pull off what would be a significant upset over the Thorns. But where I disagree, yeah, you can call me a little bit of a homer on this one, but something about having the championship on your own pitch, that just gives you a little extra bit of a motivation. And just like with the semifinal,
I mean, that's all true. I think it's very possible that, look, Portland could just go in there and thrash them, too. I mean, being on your own pitch, having that crowd that's, they're going to get up for it in Portland. They're going to have so many people there. It's going to be an awesome atmosphere in both places, so I'm excited to see
yeah,
that.
I'm excited to see it, but I think knowing what it's at stake for the Pride, I think they pull it off. And I think with the championship match, a one and done, 90, potentially 120 minutes on your home pitch, I think they ride that wave of momentum. And I think it's Orlando beating North Carolina, having a new champion in the NWSL.
And I mean, Marta, just remember the GOAT plays for the Pride.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, you got all the attacking talent. That team is really good as well. Just in every spot, they have someone that can turn it on a dime. So, and so do North Carolina for that matter. So that's going to be one tremendous match to watch. The whole playoffs are going to be fun to watch. We're going to be paying close attention to them next week when we have the show. Both the semifinals will be done by then, and we'll get to talk about them. Anything else you want to say about the league, or how the league's been this year, or anything else, Rachel? Before we
I
let you
mean,
go.
it's moving in the right direction. I think we have a long ways to go, and I know there's some rumors about, is FC Kansas City going to stay? Are they going to move somewhere? Me personally, I'd love to see Sporting Kansas City get in there and, maybe take some ownership, just because, there's a lot of success with MLS teams partnering with NWSL clubs. I would love to see the same thing happen in Seattle as well, but I just think I think you've got to look too at Sky Blue and look at Sam Kerr and just be in awe with her 17 goals on the season. Just her record breaking never stops. Somehow she got snubbed for the FIFA Women's World Player of the Year, and Carly Lloyd gets to be on the list. Again, that's another article you'll be able to read on W2M Network. But just, you see players coming into this league, popular players like Kerr and Marta and all of Christine Sinclair. And I mean, yes, you're losing Nadia Nadim to, I believe she's going to Manchester City Women, but, you've got all these studs playing in the United States in the NWSL, and they're making themselves known as one of the biggest leagues for women in the world, even though at home in the United States there's still a lot of work.
Yeah, certainly. I've been encouraged by how much it seems like the league is growing, at least in that the teams that have a following, they're coming out supporting their team. Yeah, some of the ones that have been on the bottom, you can start that the attendances here and there. That's why I wonder if there's going to be any kind of talk of expansion or not. And obviously this whole thing with the lawsuit is going to be hanging over this too, because it affects NWSL depending on what happens with that. But I've just been, that whole A&E lifetime, whatever, Go 90 they've improved, I think, throughout the season. It was really rocky at first, but they've gotten better. It's a multi-year deal, so we'll have to deal with them next year. But hopefully, as time goes on, perhaps they'll even come up with a little paid service like the one MLS has, so you can have condensed games and other things in there to make it easier for people to watch. But I've certainly enjoyed watching the league this year. What do you think, Erik?
I mean, the league definitely has been fun whenever I've been able to catch it on Lifetime. I think they've provided very great coverage, good pieces, pregame, halftime, giving you the right backstories and letting you fill in and connect certain dots and what's going on behind the scenes of the league. But at the end, my one suggestion, YouTube. That is all.
That probably won't happen, but because they want to make some kind of money, now YouTube's even more skewed to harder for you to make money on it. But yeah, Rachael, anything else before we bid you adieu here?
Nope. Go Courage.
All right, well, you're going to turn 21 the next time. You'll be 21 by the next time we have you on, so.
Oh boy.
Finally, now, already an adult at 18, but now you can drink. I mean,
legally, of course.
Yes. Legally.
Remember, folks, always drink responsibly, never drink and drive. 21 means 21. Member FDIC.
Wow.
What?
Are we getting sponsored by the Don't Drink and Drive people now?
Hey, it's a well-worthy campaign. If they were to throw a few dollars my way, I would not object to it. Hint, hint, wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Let's get on with it, National Police Department.
Besides, you know how expensive it is to have certain infused vodka shipped all the way from Germany? It's no small feat here, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, we say bye to Rachael, and we say hello to Major League Soccer, who are also just about to be finished with their season. They've got a couple of weeks left. And then we'll be talking about playoffs for the MLS as well. They got it down to the nitty-gritty here with this weekend. I'm going to be honest, both of us haven't had a lot of time to sit here, and I sort of watched matches in the periphery as I was doing other things today. I had to put together a Big Top 25 article for the site and other things. Had family over here, Anaya had cousins and all that stuff here. So, yeah, officially DC United is now eliminated from playoff contention. So,
about time, Ben.
So Erik is enjoying that asset of it. We also have Toronto FC clinching the Supporters' Shield by defeating Red Bull 4-2. Justin Morrow, and just that time where Bruce Arena doesn't call him in, hat trick for Toronto FC on that one. Also, Toussaint Ricketts with another goal to add to his tally. Still no Sebastian Giovinco for them, but they get the Supporters' Shield. First time for a Canadian team ever.
What's that all about? I'm sorry.
That's it? That's all you got to say? This is a historic time for Toronto FC and these players, and the most, probably one of the highest point tallies ever. Only one loss at home the entire season.
Sean, had you given me forewarning, I would have created a whole big speech, even though, granted, my Canadian heart lies elsewhere. With the Red Blacks doing well in the CFL, you got hockey about to start their regular season. Come Come on, Sean. You got to serve me up these pitches a little bit better than that.
What did you want me to say then?
You could have at least given me a little advance warning. Like, even this afternoon, I could have had a 2-3 minute bit just ready to go.
Well, I'm sorry. I thought you were, knew about this already, that they were basically a win away from getting the Shield. But, hey.
You know how many plates I'm standing here spinning right now? I'm surprised that one of them hasn't hit me upside the head.
I apologize on that one. Just don't let any of those plates hit you on the head. I need you conscious for this show, but we also have... If you hear a crash on the show, that means that one of those plates just absolutely knocked Erik out. I have nothing to do with it. We live in different parts of Florida, so there's no way that could have happened. So, New York, Atlanta, Chicago, Columbus all clinch playoff spots. Atlanta's big run of form could take them up to second if they keep going. They unfortunately drew with New England Revolution. They did not keep on their winning streak, so if they did, they could have gotten within a point of NYCFC, but NYCFC also not making it easy for them, as they drew as well with the Chicago Fire, who are now fourth because they keep dropping points. Columbus won their game pretty handily. Justin Merrim with a peach of a goal. And New York Red Bull are holding on because everybody below them are just futile.
Like Orlando,
who could not... They had chances, but I thought FC Dallas had more. And this game was played in Orlando as well. A big save by Jesse Gonzalez at the end, taking a ball to the face.
Okay.
That's what she said.
Yeah, that time when you've got 5 or 6 fantastic chokes in your head, and you probably shouldn't say any of them.
Wait, this is a PG-13 show. You can say jokes.
These jokes, if I put them in a PG-13 context, they would lose their luster. And I don't want to have to force anybody to go look up swaffling in the dictionary again, because by that point you've really explained the joke too much.
You know what's weird is all of those teams, Montreal, New England, Philadelphia, Orlando, it's amazing that New England still has a shot, even though they still have not won a game on the road this year.
What? No.
Montreal, New England, Philadelphia, Orlando, all on 39.
What? You better not be speaking what W called voodoo math up in here. New England? What?
Yeah, they all had 39. Red Bull is sitting here on 43, and they've got a tough road to hoe. It just, seriously, they drop any more points, and one of these teams from 7 to 10 finally figure it out.
But
they might have a problem.
Orlando and stuff I could understand. New England.
Yeah, Montreal, New England, Philadelphia because they won, and Orlando.
All of them but New England just compute to me for some reason. You can't go winless in 17 matches on the road and still make the playoffs. You don't do that. Something is fundamentally wrong if that happens.
Yeah, here's the Red Bull schedule. Now their games at home. They have Vancouver at home, who are currently number 1 in the West and the only team in the West that has clinched the playoff spot. And then they have Atlanta at home.
Oy.
And then they finish out the season against DC in RFK.
Okay, so they can still get 4 points from those 3 matches.
Yeah, it just depends on, Vancouver's clinched, but you certainly want to be number 1 in the West and not number 5, which, could easily happen here because you have Portland, Sporting, and Seattle all tied at 47, thanks to Seattle losing to Philadelphia. Clint Dempsey, for all he tried to score, just couldn't do it. Sporting KC got a penalty early on, didn't convert, and then Vancouver just parked the bus, basically, is what it felt like. They were really trying to just not lose, and they got a win. And Portland did their thing and won. And, and Houston got a win, but because FC Dallas are just, I don't know what the hell they're doing. It's amazing to me that team is just absolutely... Mauro Diaz has one right in front and can't poke it. I don't get that. Real Salt Lake drew to save their season at the death against the Galaxy. I don't understand. And then Siggy Schmidt got pissed because they added more time on there to help Salt Lake get the goal. Dude, you're just grasping at straws. Your team is awful. Just stop. Houston beats Minnesota, which, everybody beats Minnesota at this point.
Hey, the Twins are in the playoffs and it's hockey season.
Well, let's hope the Yankees win.
Wait, what, why? Did the Yankees win? Come on, Sean.
From my friend Randy, I want to see his team get there and then get beat by the Indians. It's okay.
No, please. I want to give Minnesota at least a little hope before the Wild get going. I mean, they can only barely rely on the Golden Gophers, so come on now.
Yeah, the Wild just beat my Stars in preseason, so.
See? There you go.
What are we saying here? So, San Jose win to keep things alive, and, I just... for me, this is going to be coming down to the wire for the West. I mean, this is crazy how these teams seemingly just don't. Nobody wants to grab this damn thing by the throat and take it in the West. It's weird.
I'm going to say this. If San Jose winds up making the playoffs, I will get a Scrabble jersey. I'm going to throw that out there.
You'll get a Vaco jersey?
No, Scrabble, what his nickname should be. Plain and simple.
Technically, you can do that. You can go on the site and put the name Scrabble on the back of the jersey.
Exactly. It's only 8 letters.
Yeah. Why not do that, right? You should. So, yeah, I think it's all about what's happening here. So let's look at this next sort of slate of games here, as just to look at what's coming ahead. Atlanta does have Minnesota on Tuesday, which that could be at home, by the way. So that if that's another 3 points,
4-0, 5-0. Come on now, let's see how bad that can get.
You do have, that would put them within a point of the NYCFC going into the weekend. Like I said, Red Bulls of Vancouver, Minnesota at home against Sporting, Colorado at home against Dallas. FC Dallas, you better win that game. That's all I have to say. That's it for the...
We're purple, Colorado. We're purple.
That's it for the 7th, as they're playing a few games after the Friday game, sort of taking a mini international break. Which I don't understand this stupid crap. Why are we taking a mini international break? Just take a freaking international break. You do it for the playoffs.
Considering as how MLS Cup is already in December, I mean...
Might as
They're,
well
they
just extend it till the end of December. Why not?
Yeah, so yes, because everybody's going to love watching a championship match on Christmas.
I just think it's dumb. If you're gonna do it, then do it.
When have you known Don to do anything scheduling the right way? You're just giving him too much credit.
Why can't I give him credit?
Because saying that, oh, he can easily do this or he can do that, you know clearly he ain't gonna. This is Don we're talking about here, not someone sensible. I mean, we're practically on the verge of having a team in Nashville, for Christ's sake.
Again, I don't understand what your problem is with having a team in Nashville. They have proven that they come out for their team, at least soccer-wise. They it's not their fault that, Mariota got hurt and they didn't play well in the game on Sunday. And,
Hey, that game completing a circle of death between three teams in the division, I admit that's completely irrelevant. But come on, look not so far away. 100,000 plus showing up to see their team get shut out for the first time in over 20 years. That's what they still show up. That's what they're there for. They're not going to keep that up for soccer.
I'm just saying, put it out there and let's see what happens. And again, you don't have to have the whole population of Nashville go out there. You just have to have the soccer fans in Nashville. That's two different things.
Okay, fine. All what? Few hundred of them? Like I said, if Vanderbilt rebounds...
How many people came for that? The U.S. men's and U.S. women's teams? Like 47 or something thousand? I mean, come on.
27, and look at how much that holds. Like I said, if Vanderbilt can rebound from what happened against Alabama...
Why does this have to do with anything with Vanderbilt? This has nothing to do with whether or not Vanderbilt wins or... Come on.
You're the one talking about what the Nashville did as far as the Predators in the Stanley Cup. I'm just saying, if Vanderbilt can find some magic and win the SEC East on the heels of a Stanley Cup final appearance, then I can accept that the time is right for Nashville to get a soccer team. Until that happens, I ain't going to buy it. Don, I hope you're listening.
Fair. Boy. You know what? We've had our problems with Don already. I think we should just... leave it be with Don. But yeah, I mean, as I was saying, you do have the one game with Houston and Sporting on the 11th, and then they finally go back to normal playing the last 2 weeks. They play all the games on Sunday on the 15th and the 22nd. So those are going to be very interesting weeks for us.
Yeah, about that.
And all the games are at 4 o'clock on the 22nd, by the way.
Don!
Because it's decision day. It's decision day.
Don, really? Really? Do you understand that other people have other...
That's how that works. It's on Sunday, number one. Number two, you have to play them all at the same time or it's not decision day.
I get that, but this isn't like Championship Sunday in the Premier League when it's in the middle of spring and I can pay attention and I can have my heart broken while watching 2 games simultaneously. I got other things to do this time of year, Don. Come on now.
And on the 15th, all the games are either at 5 or 7:30.
Oh, gee.
So they'll be finishing right around the time that we would usually start. So that's going to be fun as well, those last 2 weeks. But, all right, so I think that'll do it for us talking MLS, I think. The big thing really is that we're about to go on an international break. And, the focus is going to be more on the the national team than it is going to be on what's going here. But yeah, let's get into this crazy thing that is the NASL antitrust lawsuit here. I don't think that we need to go over everything that's been hashed out so far. I mean, there's a lot of waiting that's going to happen, and we can just blab about it forever, and it's not going to matter until they finally get through this pre-trial stuff and whatnot. But what do you think about the lawsuit in general? Do you think that NASL has a beef in what they're trying to say? Or do you think it's NASL just trying to save their butt because they know that they could pretty much die as a league if they have to go to D3 and they could lose teams?
I mean, well, let's face it. They haven't really had great success keeping teams as a D2 organization, and even some of the teams, and I'll even take my own hometown Armada as an example. We went from playing right downtown, right next to Everbank, where the Jaguars play, being able to draw 8, 9, 10,000 a match, to now playing a teeny bit out of the way at my old alma mater, Hodges Stadium at University of North Florida, which it's actually fairly convenient to get to, but you lose a lot of that atmosphere. Now average attendance has dropped to about 3,000. And with the way that the NASL framed the lawsuit, as far as saying, oh, well, we're going against the USL for D2 positioning and status, but your main harping the point in your suit is USSF colluding and collaborating with MLS against you to bolster USL instead of you. That's going about it the wrong way and completely ignoring the fact that they tried so many times after they gave you the D2 status beyond the whole merge / whatever mess you want to call it some years ago by giving waiver after waiver after waiver. I'm sorry. At this point, I say let it go out with a whimper because I don't see this lawsuit being successful.
Yeah, and that's from a person that has a team in the NASL. That's interesting to me. I don't have a horse in this race. It doesn't. Now, I do have a horse in this race if the USSF loses, and now we start affecting other leagues, especially if it affects the NWSL, because let's be honest, women's soccer in this country, the U.S. women's national team is great and everything, but leagues have had a hard time being able to exist, and the fact that NWSL has now existed for 5 years and seems to have a good structure behind it, and people are going to the games and being related to MLS teams, and now we have to see what's going to happen with FC Kansas City if Sporting KC is going to get involved, or if they are going to be sold to another group, and then perhaps that team succeeds and they can finally go into expansion and everything else. But that's my problem here, is that I understand what the NASL is trying to do, and I think they have a point in some things they're trying to say. I think that you can prove that there is a bit of collusion between the MLS, U.S. men's national team, the marketing arm, USL, all that. You can certainly prove that in certain aspects. The U.S. Soccer Federation has their rights to the U.S. men's national team tied to MLS. I mean, that's a number one thing that you can look at and go, well, why aren't they doing that for the NASL or the USL or whatever? And you can say that there's that U.S. men's national team has a horse in the race, that they want MLS to succeed because they're getting a lot of their players from there, and if they want to say that that's not fair, I totally can agree with them on that point, that it's not fair. And I think NASL has a point there.
And NASL does have a point, But let's look at, okay, you can have great talent. Say you have an NASL player that is just tearing it up, which you do, and we've seen some of the success from NASL franchises here in the US Open Cup. For example, what Miami FC was able to do. But even if you have great talent, if you have an unstable league, that great talent can easily just go somewhere else. They can be recognized, they can be picked up, probably for pennies on the dollar, and then go somewhere, make bank. I mean, you even see this if you go way back, remembering that one Adidas commercial that's seen from the point of view of this one Dutch kid that's spotted just in a Sunday league by Arsene Wenger. All of a sudden, he's signed by Arsenal, going through the ranks, and then everything comes full circle, and he's making a free kick, scoring a goal for the Orange. Okay, this kind of stuff can happen more often than you think. So if the NASL wants to come out with this argument, you have to find stability within yourselves first. The USL doesn't make this argument, and I think they got screwed a little bit because the A-League, First Division, they were competing very well before MLS got big, but they found a way to make it work. The NASL just flat out hasn't.
Well, and that's part of it too, is right. The NASL hasn't been able to field the amount of teams that are needed. Every time that they have to get a waiver to meet the time zone deal, or they have to get a waiver to meet the number of teams. USL has to get waivers too. Let's not put them out of that.
Right.
And they like to try to say that they're a free system, that they have real clubs, and that MLS doesn't. Well, I would beg to differ by the fact that MLS has youth academies for those clubs, fan support groups for those clubs, all that. I mean, yes, they are franchises. Yes, they are owned by these owners, and there's no promotion, relegation, or whatever. But MLS has done a lot more to make that league more than just those 22, about to be 23 teams, than the NASL has to have the 8 that they have, which they could have more leave, even whether or not this thing goes their way.
Exactly. There's a reason why MLS worked and has worked and has been around for 20 years. Lest we forget, they had very small beginnings as like 8 teams. They even went through a period of contraction. They went through a period 90s and well through the 2000s where they flat out struggled. But they sat down, had a come to Jesus moment, and said, this is what we need to do to make our model work. And it's paid off in spades. Yes, you had some hiccups like with Chivas USA, but I think they learned even more from that. The NASL, instead of learning from what markets work, what doesn't, and how to coexist within your system, they instead opt for, really, we can look at it now and say, an attempt at a very backhanded deal with trying to come up with the pro rel system, knowing that that would start a chain of events. And now you're going with this lawsuit because that failed. Sorry, you're trashing a very legitimate argument. You're trashing it.
Yeah, and for me, the thing is, NASL can say what they want about, MLS is colluding and all that stuff. And again, I agree. They have a point. It's happening. You can prove that if they want. And if a judge decides to go the other way and say, look, there really isn't cause here to prove that the U.S. Soccer Federation should be governing anything but the Olympics and the U.S. men and U.S. women's national team, then they can do that, right? Because technically that's what you're supposed to do. There's other international arms that they only govern the international part of it. They don't govern the pro teams. The pro teams are then done by their league, but the problem is that they also have a stake in FIFA, which that's a thing too. And soccer is different than the rest of the leagues, where the U.S. is that premier league. No pun intended, but they are. You're not. I mean, as much as there are European leagues in basketball and they get talked about, nobody watches them over here. I mean,
No, they get a little bit of coverage on NBA TV, but it's NBA TV. And even FIBA was looking at conversations between like the Euro League and NBA, and a lot of other people are speculating so they could try to unify the sets of rules to help improve the international game as compared to NBA. And you mentioned MLS's stake in FIFA. Guess what? FIFA is the reason why MLS even exists. When they finally awarded the World Cup to the US in 94, they said, we're going to give this to you. We know that you can make it work, but you damn sure better start a top flight league. And MLS was finally born in 96. So, given that sort of reasoning, yeah, if FIFA has anything to do with this, which right now they don't, USSF is going to cater to them rather to some, let's face it, second-rate league trying to start something.
Yeah, and I think the other point here is the problem that happens if, say, USSF loses and they lose their power and NASL wins, and say, okay, there's no divisions in soccer in the United States, and USSF can't really enforce a lot of things other than, FIFA's rules and that sort of thing. Well, that means that they would not probably be able to, they wouldn't be able to fund NWSL anymore, which would cripple that league, because that is how that league is really operating. As USSF is funding it, they are paying a good chunk of the players because they're part of the U.S. women's national team setup. And then there's also some funding that goes from USSF to MLS and also through the, TV rights and all that stuff. So the next TV rights deal would just be MLS and not be tied with the U.S. men's national team, and how that would work. And that's a big deal. And to me, I think that's when NASL is not seeing the forest through the trees here, and they're looking at for themselves, which I understand. You have to do what you have to do to make sure you stay alive if you're Camiso and all those other guys. And D3 may not be logistic for you because the pay structure and all that stuff.
Well, not just the pay structure, but even for the TV rights. The NASL has struggled beyond local networks. Yes, beIN's been getting more involved. Yes, CBS Sports Network has been getting involved with broadcasting NASL games. But really, that's about the best that you're going to get. You have that more than you have for USL, because you're only featuring a couple of those games anywhere beyond locally. And you can get a couple.
But see, the thing is, with all these streaming services popping up now, these leagues might have a better chance. NASL might be able to go to ESPN and say, look, I know you got MLS, but, you could put us on ESPN3 unless that's, within the deal with MLS, so you can't have any other soccer, U.S. Soccer League on the same network, which then that's understandable. But then, hey, look, there's also that Turner Sports might be looking to add more things to that streaming service besides just Champions League.
Right, and for
and
that,
and to be able to charge whatever they want to charge to it, and then that's where NASL or USL could step in and go, hey, we have a soccer league here you could add, and it's
yeah,
much cheaper than Champions League.
and I get that, and I even get kudos to USL because sometimes if I'm in my car and I'm listening to SiriusXM FC 85, they'll air a couple of USL matches, and I'm thinking, hey, that's great. So I understand for that, but at the same time, if all of a sudden there are no divisions, then you're talking a 3-league, some 65, 70 team free-for-all. That's not the kind of thing that can be sorted out in a matter of a couple of months. You're going to see movement and chaos for years if that happens. And I don't think NASL, if anybody, is going to last that long to see things come to fruition. MLS can.
Right, because that's not going to change MLS. Just because you don't have a divisional structure doesn't mean that MLS has to change anything of what they do.
No, MLS doesn't have
MLS
to change
continues
anything.
to expand, and NASL just continues to be NASL. Just because you remove the division structure doesn't mean, there might be some teams that decide to go into NASL because everything's Division 1 now. Great. Okay, well, now you can pay people more. Okay. Well, the thing is, MLS still has 23 teams as of right now. They're going to have 28. That's not going to change MLS, and it's not going to change you from seeing MLS as number one. And maybe this helps MLS to become the NFL of soccer in this country or whatever, but it's not going to help NASL.
No, it wouldn't. It really would help MLS. And if anything, it would tweak USL because of how the structure is right now with the reserve teams, some of them playing in USL. But guess what? MLS decides, hey, we want to recreate and re-strengthen a reserve league. So be it. And now NASL is not only pretty much non-existent, but USL is crippled to an extent. So then whose purpose does that really serve?
Yeah, and then it cripples other things in the U.S. soccer landscape, which I already mentioned. And then you have this other thing, too, which this doesn't have to do with NASL, but you have the Miami FC owner and the Kingston Stockade deciding to go over to the court, the arbitration of sport, the Court of Arbitration of Sport, and demand that there be promotion and relegation in this country. So if you take the divisions away, guess what happens? No promotion and relegation.
Nope, because there's nothing to promote to or relegate from.
Exactly. So then, well, for one, even if the division structure stays the same, okay, you still have to have agreements between the leagues that you're going to and from, because again, MLS is not going to just all of a sudden be forced to change what they are. And even if this thing comes down, which I don't think it's going to go in his favor anyway, but
no.
let's say it did, okay? The thing is that that's just that's a franchise system. You're going to have agreements that say, okay, well, the team that's 24th, or I guess at that point 28th, is going to go down, or I don't know if they'd go to 26 through 28 or whatever. But,
well, basically, how it would start is, say MLS, let's just say teams.
They might actually employ the Liga MX system for a little while. And then they might go to the more European system where it has to be over a period of 3 years or something to have that first one go.
Other way around. Well, because you have the period of 3 years, that's more Liga MX, Argentina, and a lot of other.
That's what I'm saying. They would start with the Liga MX version.
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
get one down there.
Yes.
And then they might eventually go to the more European version where it's just
Right.
straight, okay, we already know these last three are going down.
Right. And when going back to really my argument, say that you have the 28th team. Well, guess what? Under this system, you can't automatically start an MLS. You're founding a team. You have to start in 3rd division, 4th division, work your way up pretty much from scratch. However long it takes, then eventually get to MLS.
That's not true. If you still have the franchise system, you could have them start in MLS, and then, but you are then understanding that you are subject to promotion and relegation. Like, you're getting this squad, okay, but understand that it's you're not paying for them to stay there forever. That they can be relegated.
Yeah, but see, that's the problem. That's the problem, and that's what MLS is going to say. They know that the franchise system can't coexist with Pro Rel. You can traditionally only have one or the other. No matter what.
It could with the system that Liga MX and all them use, if they want to do that, where it takes 3 years or 4, however many years they want to do it. It takes years for you to suck for you to go down.
Well, usually, it's not even years. They go 3 tournaments. So if you're counting for tournaments, yes, in MLS, it would be a 3-year average because we only have 1 tournament per year.
Right.
But if you're one of these systems where they have 2 tournaments per year, okay, you can only go back like maybe 4-6 tournaments at the most, and then you're kind of screwed. And even then, you really don't see this as a hidden thing, but I would like to think any new team that wants to be established in Mexico, they would have to start in Ascenso or any other league below that. Same with Argentina, same with anywhere else.
Right.
You would have to start at the bottom and work your way up. You can't, MLS, of course, would try to come to some sort of hybrid like you mentioned, but if you're eventually adopting the system and going by with all of these leagues, that franchise system would automatically go away.
Well, they might have to just lower the franchise cap is what they might have to do. Like, you don't have to pay $150 million, you pay a lot less.
Well, but even then, you could try that, but for that, even if you lower that, you would still have teams circumnavigate. You're getting closer to what England did with their rugby system than you are doing with anything in soccer. When they went from away from franchises or towards franchises in a promotion relegation, and that ended up semi-chaotic. The same thing would happen here.
Yeah. This is really interesting, and it's going to go on for a while. This is going to take a while. This could take years before anything happens.
And as a side note that really hasn't even come up, but I know would be on the effects of the fringe, the U.S. Open Cup.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you don't have any divisions. How is that tournament going to be structured? Would you use that tournament if the franchise system went away and try to establish divisions using that? Other leagues have done that before.
Yeah, it's true. They could do it that way. I mean, there's a lot that they could do here. I think at the end of the day, we have to remember that this is going to take a while. We have to see if it gets through the pre-trial thing. We have to see what's going to happen with that.
These sort of processes are incredibly slow. Incredibly slow. So we may find out if this is even worthy of anything by middle of next year. By the time NASL's next season is due to start in the spring. If they have a next season, who knows?
So yeah, that's another thing. Is again, NASL is doing this so they can stay at D2. Will they get that status revoked? That's possible too. It's possible that USSF has a problem. We'll have to see how that goes. But I think that's going to do it for us this week. Like on Wednesday, we'll have that Atlanta and did I say Minnesota game to talk about. And we'll just continue. We'll have actually, never mind. On Tuesday, we will be here doing a U.S. men's national team reaction show. We'll also talk about that Atlanta-Minnesota game and whatever else has been going on. Who knows? There could be more news from the NASL thing by then. But, yeah, big game on what am I talking about here?
I was about to say
I'm thinking next week and the week after that.
Next Tuesday.
So again, we will be here Wednesday talking about the Atlanta Minnesota game, whatever else has been going on, and we'll give you a more, let's say, in-depth preview on US and Panama. And until then, thank you for listening. Hope you've enjoyed what you heard. If you do, hit that subscribe button. And you can get everything we do. Of course, we have 2 shows a week, one on Wednesday doing the midweek, and then on Sunday is our normal show where we talk about everything that's happened on the weekend. Unfortunately, we'll do some more bigger international stuff and some European things here and there, but we mainly focused on the American side of things here. I do want to once again give a shout out to the Yanks Are Coming podcast, World Soccer Talk, and what was the Fierstein's Fire. For all the guys on there have done a wonderful job covering the NASL Anti-trust lawsuit and all that stuff. Just really, really interesting to hear from them. A lot of the same people, but these guys have been involved in NASL, involved within the 11, the Fort Lauderdale Strikers, all that kind of stuff throughout the years. They know what they're talking about, and I definitely think you should listen to them. I'll have links on the site if you're listening through the site that you can go listen to their shows. And yeah, and World Soccer Talk's really good because they also let you know what's going on in the streaming world as far as any kind of new things that are hitting streaming. They are the ones to kind of break the news about the Premier League Pass coming out and everything else. So yeah, there's a lot of great soccer podcasts out there. I'm just grateful to be one among them. So and have Erik here with me to do this, that makes the show even better. And of course Rachael, when she can be on. I wish she could be on more, but hey, we gotta be happy when she can be here because she's got a big girl job, and she's out there being a journalist for all of us. So all right, until we see you again on Wednesday night, Thursday morning, see you later, everybody.
Peace.
The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.